Namaskar. I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. This is our online training program under the umbrella theme of ICT for teaching and learning of languages. This training program is brought to you by Central Institute of Educational Technology, that is CIET NCERT New Delhi. It's a 5-day, 5-hour training program, and today we are in day 4 of the training session where we are going to talk about virtual labs for the teaching and learning of languages. It is one of the tools, and we will figure out what exactly they are and how their journey began and where we are standing right now in the context of virtual labs. And we will share some examples and demonstrations with you as well. So please pay attention to the session if you want to participate in the online course or the assessment. Well, if you score more than 70%, you'll be granted a certificate. You have all the details, and for more details, you can go to our CIT website and everything is right there. How you can register, participate, and don't forget to share your feedback. You are watching us right now on PM eVidya channels from 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube channel NCERT Official. The session is live and interactive as always, which means you can also participate with your questions, suggestions and feedback. You can give us a call, you can message us and email us as well. Phone number is 8800440559. We also have a dedicated email ID for you, and that is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. Last but not the least, you can always share your experiences and suggestions, your questions on our live chat box. Of course, that is in our NCERT Official YouTube handle. Now, who's there with us, who is going to take us through this journey of virtual labs and is going to elaborate on the topic? Well, we are joined by our guest. We have with us Dr. Amit Ranjan. Sir, namaskar and welcome to the session.
Thank you.
Sir is Assistant Professor from CIET NCERT New Delhi, and with him, we're going to explore this journey of virtual labs. So, before we delve deep into the topic and ask you questions, you tell us what exactly virtual labs are and what exactly we are going to focus in today's session.
Sure. So, virtual labs are laboratories which are virtual. So, we have experienced laboratories in school, physics and chemistry and
mathematics also at times.
Biology. These are the subjects we generally associate with labs. But there is something called language lab as well, in which people learn language. So you'd have seen in different colleges now, they have setups where they have computers which are interactive, which teach you pronunciation, vocabulary, etc. So that is virtual, of course, because you are interacting with a screen.
Yes.
But that is a real lab, so to say, because the virtual lab would be where you do it online directly. So it would be interesting to first understand what these words mean.
Yeah, virtual and lab.
Fascinate me. So virtual, as you would guess, is close to the word virtue. Right?
True.
But the two do not seem to have any connection whatsoever.
Relation, yes.
Virtue means your goodness, the innate qualities of a person. A person is virtuous means a person is nice. Whereas virtual means something which is on screen.
Yes.
So how did this happen that these two similar looking and similar sounding words are so different? Actually, they are not. And this is called etymology, where we look into the histories of words, where they have come from, the journeys, and those journeys are very interesting. They also tell us about the evolution of language and how words change their meanings, that language is a living entity which keeps changing according to times. So the origin is from the word virtualis in Latin, which means excellence, potency, efficacy. In 14th century, which leads to the word virtue, which is basically excellence of quality, of piety, etc. Now the thing is, excellence or potency or efficacy cannot be measured.
Yes, in quantitative terms, of course.
Like we, for example, we can measure temperature, but we cannot measure heat that way.
Yes.
So this is something which cannot be measured, and so this is something which is felt. And so by 15th century, the meaning had changed to being something in essence or effect, though not actually or in fact. So you can feel the excellence of somebody, but you cannot really measure it.
Yeah.
So you can feel it. It's the essence. And so this is how something which is not fact, virtue to not fact, this is the relation.
Okay.
And over 4 more centuries, over 4 more hundred years, by 1959, when computers came into being in America, the idea of not physically existing but things that appear by a software on your screen came to be known as virtual.
Okay.
So the two words are actually related: virtue, which is goodness, and virtual.
Because we can feel it,
and which
not touch
also
it.
tells us that we should be, we should have the best practices in the virtual world. We should be virtuous.
Yes. Yeah, that's related.
Yeah. And the other word, laboratory, is also from Latin, which is a place for labor or work. This is simple to understand, a place where labor happens, so it's laboratory. And so any kind of workshop came to be known as laboratory, and a room where scientific experiments were done in another 100 years by 16th century. So today, combining the two terms, we have a virtual workspace, a workspace which is digital, which is online, which is not in fact, but which is in fact.
Which is in fact, yes. So
Right.
it is absolutely true that of course you cannot actually touch them, but yes, they exist, and that is why they are different from physical laboratories. We call them virtual labs. But since you have dissected the word in such a beautiful manner, that how we derived the present word over the years, similarly, it's the case, same case with the virtual lab. I'm sure that they were created and developed over the years for a specific reason. So I request you to kindly take us through that journey of virtual labs.
Sure. So there was, of course, with globalization, there was a need, and globalization has always been there. We understand globalization only in the terms of last 2 or 3 decades.
Yes.
But globalization has always been there. There's always been trade and commerce between different continents, different people. But in the 20th century, there was a need with rapid industrialization, globalization, interaction to understand, learn new languages. So Indians, of course, we are naturally bilingual, trilingual, but Europeans are generally monolingual. So there was a need to learn different languages.
Yes.
And also the growth of English post Second World War, as America became strong and mostly internationally. English was the accepted language, so there was a lot of focus on learning English as well. So the early language labs, as you can see on the screen in the 1960s, were mostly audio based. So they were phonograms which recorded your sound, and so there was standardization of languages. So there's a particular diction, the way we pronounce words, the way poetry is recited, and so on. So phonograms were useful in understanding.
Okay.
Or for example, I'll give you an example. Many English teachers tell me that they do not understand how to scan a poem. Scanning a poem means understanding the stresses in that.
Okay.
So for example, Jawaharlal Nehru's Freedom at Midnight speech, if you listen to it, it's very different from how we speak today.
Okay.
So he says, long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. So there's a rise and fall.
Yes.
There's an unstressed syllable, a stressed syllable. And that is the natural way of speaking, which is why you see younger people now these days have upwardly rising sentences.
Yeah, there are a lot of
stresses. This is
pauses.
Called, in technical terms, in English language, this is called an iamb, unstressed and stressed syllable.
Okay.
And that is what Shakespeare has largely written in most of his plays, and which is why the enduring quality of the dialogues in his plays. So these kind of things were explored through phonograms and audio machines in the 1960s.
Okay.
But as they say, video killed the radio star. So by 1970s there was video, and personal computers were coming in, and there were softwares coming in, And so these were, so now what we had in textbooks, vocabulary, grammar, they came onto the computer screens. Of course, we were a little behind. This is, I'm talking of the Western developments. Computers came to India in the 1990s. And in the 90s, with more multimedia technology coming, there was more development in this area. And the next decade, 2000 onwards, we had video games, we had gaming, we had interactive simulations, three-dimensional movies also came. Online collaborative tools also started coming. If you remember, there was chat facility on Yahoo, for example.
Yes, Messenger.
Email became big during this decade. And in 2010s, in the last decade, we finally came to what we know as VR and AR, virtual reality and augmented reality.
Right.
And so now these are very much integrated into these systems. So when we combine all of these things, VR, AR, gaming, exercises, all these things are part of the virtual lab. So we have one platform which can offer you all these facilities to make language learning much more interesting. So that's roughly the journey of virtual labs.
But you know what, video can never actually, cannot actually kill the radio star, because when we talk about virtual labs, we have so much of content that's there. We have audio content, video content, and there's so many key features of, or I would say, plus points of virtual labs that make them an indispensable component when it comes to providing education to one and all, because we talk about equity, inclusivity. So let's talk about the key features of virtual lab and how they're serving the purpose, especially in the context of NEP 2020.
Sure. So NEP 2020 stresses a lot on digital education and reaching the last mile, and emphasis on blended learning.
Yeah.
So so at the outset, I'd like to say that there is no alternative to classroom education.
Yeah.
It's like we are sitting here interacting. It's very different from when you are on a Zoom call or something. It's much more immersive, much more interactive when you learn in the classroom. So this is only an aid, it's an extra. That we must always keep in mind, that this is not the dominant force, but rather the helping force with us.
But as a teacher yourself, what do you find more interesting and convenient? One-to-one interaction or interaction like this?
No, of course, one-to-one always.
Okay.
Because anything that you see on the screen is passive reception. Even though it's interactive, it's not that interactive or immersive.
That's right.
Anyway, the key features and the strengths of virtual labs is that it is interactive, in the sense that you get lots of exercises, games, vocabulary games, pronunciation practice, conversation simulation. So these days, if you type a word on Google, it comes with its pronunciation and with its stress markers.
And UK and US pronunciation both.
Yeah. And it's developing, so it will have even more nuances. So what language labs offer is a great degree of interactivity, and also a great degree of multimedia content, that you can look at video recordings of experts, conversations, you can have animated features. And animation and these things are growing at an alarming rate.
Yes,
it's
indeed.
amazing.
They're very catchy.
Yeah, so for example, right now the Australian Open tennis tournament is taking place, and the other day I was seeing it because these days television channels have the rights. So even if the organizers want to disseminate it for free, they cannot do it. So what they have done is they've created simulated animations of the players in real time. So as they're playing, you see animated versions of them playing, and which is almost accurate with all the emotions and everything. So animation anyway is very appealing. We all have seen cartoon films in our childhood, Disney and all kinds of things. It's very appealing. So with interactive graphics and animation, this makes learning quite a quite interesting.
Yes, and when you have such a resource available, it makes learning really joyful.
Absolutely.
And things stays in your memory intact for a longer period of time.
Absolutely. And the other strength of virtual labs is personalized learning.
What is that?
So, if I'm doing an exercise online and I have certain kinds of problems, let's say, let's take plurals.
Okay.
So, ball will become balls, call will become calls, right? But stimulus what will stimulus become?
Stimuli.
Stimuli.
Yeah.
That's because but let's say I have difficulty with it and I want to add an S and I cannot. So, the evaluator who is evaluating me, who is seeing my responses, understands this difficulty that I am not able to get this theoretical concept right. That I am not able to understand that there are different kinds of plurals, and so they will make it tailor-made for the learners. If there are a large number of learners having the same difficulty, they will focus on words which end in US and also emphasize that these are Latin root words, the plural of which happens this way.
And similarly, we have words like people and fish, like they're plural again. In the plural form, they're people and fish, but you use peoples and fishes, but that's in completely different context.
Right. So, the feedback that will be generated out of the user data, let's say 100 people are making the same mistake. So, the makers of the modules can then focus next time in the next session on emphasizing on those particular aspects, and that's how AI also improves, and the interaction between let's say the makers of modules and the users, the learners, also will develop.
So, in a way, here also we need constant supervision by the teachers, right? Because they're the ones probably who are developing the content, updating it also.
Yeah, sure, but there are also web developers, other researchers working in the field, but means it is collaborative. There are various people who are working, and that's the next point, which is collaboration and communication.
Yeah.
So what students love the most is teamwork. When you play cricket together, hockey together, games together in a field, it's the most enjoyable. And that's where the challenge in the classroom is in the one-to-many approach of the standard classroom, where a teacher is teaching and students are listening passively. Actually, in classrooms also teachers should use collaborative learning, give group work to students. But online, what can be done now is a lot of collaboration can happen. So for example, one Google Docs can be open in 50 different windows with 50 students editing a document together or writing a story together. So you write 5 lines, I write 5 lines. And
and you can develop a new version of it as well.
Yeah. And this is just one example, collaboration, because everybody is online, there are multiple things which can be collaborated upon, multiple projects, they are doing projects, so projects can be divided between students on different
aspects. And it speeds up the learning process also.
Yeah, absolutely, and the end product also comes out much finer and faster.
True.
So these are the advantages of virtual lab, that it's interactive, it's got a lot of multimedia, feedback is good with personalized learning, and there's opportunity for a lot of collaboration. And this is an important lesson in life, to collaborate, because most of the things that we do is teamwork. For example, this session, you and I are here, there's a whole team coordinating, 10 people working at it. So collaboration and teamwork is something that students, the earlier they learn, the better.
And what I really like is that there is no one size that fits all. So making learning a customized experience is extremely beneficial, because we all have different capabilities when it comes to grasping the concepts and learning the things.
Yeah. So to highlight the advantages of virtual labs, once again, we roughly talked about these points, but you'll see on screen these 4 points. One is accessibility. This is obvious, but it needs to be stressed, because there's lots of remote areas in India where there are not proper schools, or the weather goes bad, there's winter in Ladakh, or the heavy rains in Kerala. So there are many times, or parents are unable to send their children to school. So there are many times when physical access is not possible,
Yes.
which is what happened during COVID as well. And we have to be prepared for a situation like that if it happens in the future. So once you have an internet connection, the accessibility is there anytime, anywhere.
You need very little physical infrastructure basically.
Yeah.
A device and a connection.
Absolutely,
And you're
a
good
good
to go.
connection, and that's it. And therefore it's cost effective.
Yes.
You do not need much of a setup to do that. And thirdly, these are very immersive experience, like we discussed. There's gaming, and now there's VR and AR technologies.
Can you just give an example when you say it's an immersive experience? How it is immersive in nature?
So for example, virtual reality is becoming big, where you have those gadgets where you have a 3D idea, so you can actually be placed in ancient Rome and you can see the ruins, and you can see the history of Julius Caesar or whatever. That's an example of VR, but there's also gaming, which is immersive psychologically, that we are used to playing games and children love video games. So instead of having
you
games,
are in it, the reality actually, in it.
So till now, the initial phases of video games, what did they have was mostly shooting games, gun games,
Brick games.
brick games, things like that. But that is stereotypical, that is detrimental to the society, it induces violence. So there's a writer called Roland Barthes who has a chapter on toys, where he says that we do not grow up, we only grow old. So boys are given guns and cars, and adult men also want guns and cars, and girls are given kitchen sets and so on. And so he says that what you need is neutral games, constructive games, like the brick games, plasticine games, and so on. And so now gaming is evolving from those gun games that we had 20 years ago, Contra and Mario and Space.
Dave and like we have now Ee Jadui Pitara.
Of course, Ee Jadui Pitara is a set of beautiful things that's been produced by Ncert, which is physical as Jadui Pitara, and Ee Jadui Pitara is the electronic online version of it. But gaming has changed a lot, and you can play games with languages now. So you can that can also be exciting, that you have to complete a word, a crossword, a streak, and I've seen lots of people really enjoy word games, for example. And like we already discussed, the learning is very personalized. Personalized in two ways. One, that there are these exercises online. So you get immediate feedback, which when you write a test in your school, you may have to wait 15 days, 30 days for the result. And by the time that curiosity may fizzle off. But in this case, you get immediate feedback. And you can also practice something that you are getting stuck at. Let's say you're getting stuck at some pronunciation or some syntax of a sentence. You practice it again and again.
True.
So it's personalized in that way. And also, like we discussed earlier, the feedback that if you make a certain kind of mistake, the researchers, the makers of software will also pay attention to it and make those modules stronger.
Right. So, can we have some examples of modern day virtual labs?
Sure. So, there are loads of stuff online these days. To begin with, we have at Ncert something called Language Virtual Labs, which is on the Diksha platform, which we often talk about. There are multiple sessions with demonstrations on Diksha platform. So currently it's for English, Hindi and Sanskrit, with the English modules for class 7 and above. And there are multiple things. So there's gaming in which there'd be ball, which you can, we don't have that much time to give
we
a
have
demo
already had enough demonstrations of the same also.
But yeah, you can go to Diksha, D-I-K-S-H-A, and in that go to virtual labs and see the modules on English, Hindi and Sanskrit. So they have a theory component as well as a practice component with immediate feedback. There is some gaming component also. So that's very good. There's O Labs as well. And outside our system of Ncert, there are multiple things online. There's Google Classroom, which is very big, and there are Moodles as well. So Google Classroom, so basically what these things are is integrating what we get physically in the real world, trying to get them onto the virtual world. So you can upload videos on Google Classroom, you can manage your classes, you can give assignments to students, you can check the papers and give them feedback over there.
Yeah.
You can give them practice lessons and so on. Then there is Duolingo, which is one of the most popular language learning apps. It's available for all kinds of phones, for Android as well as for iOS, and it uses gamification and AI to create interactive exercises. So Duolingo gives you exercises as well as gives you practice in speaking. So a lot of time we learn by reading, so we are unable to, our speaking skills may not be that great.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems that Indian English learners have, that they may work very hard, and but English is a funny language, as we all know, that it's actually a mixture of so many languages,
Yeah.
that there are exceptions to every rule.
But we're also very good at it
And
internationally.
that's why it's important to practice speaking it and
Yes.
not just through reading.
Yeah.
And Duolingo is an app which any language, it's not just English. People learn lots of different languages on Duolingo.
Okay.
Gives you pronunciation practice as well as lots of exercises to
Yes.
correct your sentences.
Yeah. And we also have a few more options that we can watch on screen. Then
Yeah, there's Memrise.
Yeah.
This is also a very good language app, which is flashcard based.
Okay.
And flashcards are a very good method, as we know from classroom experience and repetition, and there are also interactive games in
Yeah.
Memrise. And similarly, Babbel. Babbel is also a very good app which offers very similar features.
Yeah, so we can see, and you know, these names are also very stylish, you know. And I have to ask you, like, I understand Google Classroom and Duolingo to memorize also, probably related to the memory. What do you mean by Babbel? Quite a new word.
Babbel is a very good pun. Babbel is many things. Babbel is B-A-B-B-L-E. So here it's B-A-B-B-E-L. Of course, that's the name of the software. But
Yeah.
Babbel with B-A-B-B-L-E is to chatter. When you talk a lot, that's babbling.
Oh, okay.
And also, that's also derived from something else. It's from the Tower of Babel. There's a myth of Tower of Babel that human beings were building a tower. Men were building a tower which was to rise to heavens.
Okay.
And then the gods got very worried, what if human beings climb up to heavens. So they made them speak in different tongues. They broke their language, so they could not communicate. So this is one of the myths of the origin of the word. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. And can we have a few links as well? Like, can you take us to those websites also?
Sure, in a bit. But first, let's see open source virtual language lab platforms. So open source is very important in a country like India, because most of the softwares these days are very highly priced, and only institutions can buy them, individuals cannot.
Yes, yes.
So many organizations work with open source, where there's a basic program provided, like Moodle, and then you build your own infrastructure on it.
Right.
If your institution has the money, they can buy more sophisticated, already ready for your need things. So what are the advantages of open source? They are freely available for modification and distribution. So there is Moodle, which is big in terms of building this. There's also, like we discussed, Google Classroom, which offers you their services for free and a lot of space in which you can build up all your things. There is Orange for data analysis these days, which is you don't need to know programming, but you just need to know how to use the software well, and you'll be able to analyze your data.
Right.
Then it's community driven and maintained by contributors. who believe in free access to knowledge, and therefore there's a lot of collaboration.
Okay. All right.
And customization. So it allows educators to tailor labs to specific language learning needs and teaching methods. Most important thing about any open source platform is that it's cost effective. That's why it's called open source. So a few examples are Mahara and Moodle and Google Classroom, as we have already seen.
Right. And you know what? I believe that you have shared so many examples and advantages and key features of virtual lab. I mean, they are practically very important to us because we are focusing on the role of ICT in education. We want to connect the last mile learner to the education. We want to make it accessible to all. And again, I believe that, these are just add-ons to the existing physical laboratories and not a complete replacement of the same. So virtual labs are very important. They give you a chance to learn and of course to repeat the experiments or whatever, because today we are talking in the context of languages. So whatever problem you're having with pronunciations or with anything that is related to language, you can practice it as many times as you can. And there is nothing like that you have to compete with somebody, you can do that at your own pace and convenience. So virtual labs are indeed important and they're very cost effective, because no matter wherever you are, you just need a stable internet connection and you are good to go. And of course there are different services available, like you get prompts, regular prompts. So if you have opened a web page and you want to practice through virtual lab and you don't know anything, you're confused what to do and how to start, you will get a prompt, how to start actually.
Yeah.
So this is amazing. But again, I would say that there are certain challenges also, some limitations, because nothing is foolproof, nothing is perfect. So what according to you are some of the limitations and challenges of virtual labs that we need to overcome?
The most important problem with anything related to internet is accessibility, the digital divide. So we assume that everybody has internet, but everybody does not have internet or smartphones, or and even with smartphones, you need good smartphones to be able to run many programs.
Oh yes.
Basic one doesn't. So there's unequal access to technology, to internet, and so the participation of different students, different people in different parts of the country can be different. In remote areas, we assume that, all right, if their physical classrooms are difficult, we'll give them good online platforms, but the internet connectivity or the availability of smartphones is also a very major issue. There are many families in which there is only one phone in a family of 6 or 7 people.
True. So you cannot keep the phone busy for a longer period of time just because you want to practice.
So during COVID, this was a problem where a family would have just one phone, and there are 3 children in a family, and they all have their classes. How would you do that?
Of course.
The second problem is lack of personal interaction. So you asked me earlier what I'd prefer, whether classroom or online, and I said definitely a classroom always, because there's face-to-face interaction. There is a lot of corrective measures that can be taken when we are talking face-to-face in a classroom, and there's also a human element that the teacher empathizes with
the personal touch that of course you can give to the students. I mean, because we have this habit of a teacher standing on our head, and
it's not just about standing on the head. I think it's about empathy and understanding more than that.
True.
And then there's the issue of technical glitches that like this is going live right now, and a little glitch can cause it to go off air.
Of course.
And so the continuity of it and all that, there are technical difficulties. And the biggest challenge that is coming with anything that develops fast, there are big challenges, because the policy and the regulations around them do not develop that fast. Technology develops much faster. So there are lots of cyber security concerns, and we regularly hold sessions about those these days. Even on your phone ringtone, you hear warnings about digital arrest, which is a strange thing that is happening. So There's phishing scams, the financial scams. People hack by sending you links on your phones, or they intimidate you by calling you, all kinds of things. And children are really vulnerable to all these things. They do not know. They're too raw, they're too innocent to understand
they're leaving their digital footprints,
spams and scams that can happen, and they can be conned and tricked easily. So cybersecurity concerns are very important, and all institutions must work towards educating their faculty and students and their employees about these concerns as much as they educate them in digitization.
There are malwares, there are ransomwares, and they can hack the data and then they won't release it. And if you've maintained everything on the cloud, then it's fine. Otherwise, it can be stolen, or it can be taken away from you, and then you'll be in a mess.
Right. So here now are a few resources for language lab exploration. And there are lots of these. I've just listed a few which are the best. So one is called Language Virtual, and you can see this is how it appears. And these are open source programs. These are free.
Open source is freely available to all, so anybody can use them. And do we need to create any account, or do we need to sign up before using them?
Yeah, there's a tab called Register over here. So it's simple registration, becoming a student or becoming a teacher.
Okay.
And this is a non-profit organization, as you can see, and this is to teach or learn English. So this is collaborative. You can teach as well if you feel like, and you can learn as well.
Right. So that's one, and we have a few more, and these resources are developed by the experts, I believe, and they're constantly updating them.
Yep.
So you can also share your feedback once you start using them, and I think this is an international source, and likewise we must be having many resources that are indigenously developed.
Yeah. I'll show a few more.
Yeah.
This one is called Open Culture. And this is, as the name suggests, this is not just educational, this is cultural as well. So you'll get lots of cultural resources like information about folk dances, feature films, and things like that.
Okay.
There are lots of videos, essays. It's a brilliant website with multiple resources.
And then what next we have?
And then there is Tandem.
Okay.
This is language exchange website. So
language exchange, what do we mean by that?
You speak Marathi, I speak Hindi. We want to learn each other's language, so we can collaborate on it.
Wow, lovely.
You'll teach me, I'll teach you. So there's a pool of people who are interested in learning and teaching.
Yeah.
So and
collaboration happening there.
As you can see over here, I want to learn this language. The flag shown, and you'll also have a tab of I want to teach. So what?
But how can we make sure that the one teaching us is a certified, I would say, teacher himself or herself?
And so you have to register with. There's a login sign up where you'll have to fill out your information,
and then they can verify the details.
Verified. So of course there's that minimal risk, but there are processes of verification and you use Uber or thing, no?
Right.
The ratings of each
okay,
of
yes,
the speakers.
we get ratings here. All right.
So eventually your profile is built. And anyway, it's a space where all young people are teaching each other different languages. So it's a very good resource.
Yeah.
There's something called word reference, and which has all kinds of grammar related. So as the name suggests, of course, it's about vocabulary, and there are links to different kinds of dictionaries, but there's also usage, grammar, syntax, different kinds of tools, and all of those things, and different language dictionaries, not just English.
Right, because sometimes what happens when we, even in English language, we get Mexican words, French words, Spanish words, and we do not pronounce them correctly. So I think this is quite a unique website and very useful for the same.
Yeah, And one more I have listed over here, it's called libralingo.com. And this is also a community driven language learning platform. So as you can see, my focus has been all these open source, collaborative community learning free.
Right.
Because the other apps and websites, they cost a lot, and
Yes.
only institutions can afford them. I would not advise individuals also to buy them because there's sufficient material otherwise.
True.
And so here you can see that this is an experiment, it says, and it's an experiment to create a community driven language learning platform. And the first tab is start learning Spanish. So for example, you can learn different languages. So these are some examples. If you explore, you will find even more, but these are the best apps and you can make a note of them. I'll repeat them very quickly. There's Language Virtual, Open Culture, Tandem, to learn from each other, Word Reference, which gives you grammatical, a lot of grammatical information,
Yes.
syntax based information as well as vocabulary, and Libal Lingo, which is free language learning, unlike other language learning apps.
Yes, because sometimes it is not literally possible for us to attend these classes in person, you know, so these websites come handy at the time.
Absolutely, you can decide your own time, work out with the teamwork, with the people who are collaborating with you.
Sure.
And while let's say you're taking regular classes in a language, you can practice your speaking. Because if I'm learning Spanish over here in Delhi, I may be learning fast, but unless you practice a language, it's lost. And so if you have somebody to practice it with online, you may have a friend overseas, but they may not have the time
for you. That's right.
And so these kind of where people come for these kind of shared interests, it's amazing. It's not just linguistic exchange, it's cultural exchange as well, knowledge exchange as well.
Absolutely.
I'll quickly talk about the features of different kinds of labs and softwares that we just talked about. So one, there's Google Classroom that I've been talking about. It is integrated with the Google Suite. So if you have a Gmail account and you see those 9 tabs at the right hand corner, just click on it. And one of those within the Google Suite, there's Google Classroom as well. In this you can collaborate on documents, create assignments, check assignments online, and the students and teachers can communicate online. So during summer holidays or whatever, also these are very useful, and also for evaluation and assignments. And language learning, there are lots of collaborative projects that can be done through Google Classroom, discussions, assignments, and there'll be, so the feedback system is very fast and in real time. And so Google Classroom is a really good tool, and it's a free tool, and everybody knows Google. So Duolingo is one of the fastest growing applications, and its strength is gamified learning. So it gives you points for getting sentences correct. So
does it give you rewards as well?
There's incentives and streaks. These are all virtual rewards, of course, these days. And it also is adaptive learning. So it adjusts your difficulty level. It is able to understand what level you are at. And which is a difficulty in physical classrooms. Right? There's one teacher, and the teacher has to adapt to 40, 50 students. And it's not easy. Whereas with machine learning, this can happen, that the machine can adapt to your level, and so it doesn't go above your head, therefore. And there are multiple language options in Duolingo. So lots of people use Duolingo to learn. So
you feel motivated once you beat the machine.
And Duolingo is an app on your phone, so whenever you have half an hour free, you can practice your speaking with the machine.
I'm going to try it for sure.
Absolutely, Duolingo is great. Memrise is also a great app. I've discussed it earlier. So there's flashcards, and it's spaced repetition. So it will ask you a question, the meaning of a word now, and half an hour later that flashcard will pop up again.
Nice.
I told you this half an hour ago, now tell me what
Quite
this
engaging, I must say.
And It also has, like Duolingo, adaptive learning, so it adapts to your learning style, your speed, understands your strengths and weaknesses. And so this is a very good thing about AI right now, that it's with the amount of data that is fed into it, it's able to adapt to your style.
But you
and
need to
your
use
level.
the right keywords, otherwise you will get lost because there's so much of information out there.
Yeah, but these dedicated apps of language learning, you just have to learn, and the machine learns how you are learning, what your
Right.
level is.
Okay.
And so there are lots of activities also in Memrise, apart from flashcards, there are quizzes, there are games which keep us engaged. And gamification, like I said, is one of the most important developments, as all these apps are taking to giving you some games so that
Yeah.
you play and have incentives to earn points and
True.
so on. Babel, we've already talked about. This is what Babel looks like. It and the good thing about Babel is, while most other learning platforms give you bookish learning. So, for example, when Europeans learn Hindi, they speak strange Hindi, which is very
Yeah.
Sanskritized. No?
Yeah.
Is vastu ki कीमत क्या है?
That's
You'll
right.
speak like that, which is not how you speak in the market. You
Yeah.
don't speak in the market. So Babel is very conversation focused, the way people speak
Okay.
in society. So it gives you very practical language skills, not
Wow.
theoretical language skills.
Oh, that's very nice.
And you also get native speaker audio. Native speaker audio means people who are native speakers of the language, whose mother tongue that language is.
Yes.
So if you're practicing say Mexican Spanish, you will get some Mexican person speaking it, those recorded audios. And there are interactive exercises which will give you immediate feedback. Already talked about Moodle, which is also like Google Classroom, but Moodle has more scope, more possibilities.
Okay.
And it's one of the fastest growing open source. So this is not a dedicated platform, you have to build on it. It's
Okay.
open source, but you build what you need on it.
Is it like Wikipedia where you constantly need to feed the information and get it updated?
Yeah, and you build the software according to your needs, according to your institution. There's also Canvas, which is also has interactive lessons and assessment. It's also very user friendly and is integrated. Mahara has e-portfolios. So as you can see on the screen, people create their portfolios
Right.
with your skill sets, and so the exact thing that I want somebody who's proficient in Spanish literature, not just language. So I go through these profiles,
Oh.
match
Your
profiles,
requirements.
and accordingly I set my goals, and that way learning happens in a much more immersive and interesting manner. So emerging technologies like AR, VR, AI are revolutionizing learning, and learning now is much more immersive and personalized. There's instant feedback and engagement with gamification. So there'll be more personalization as AI gets more data, more feed as it grows wiser, more learned. But the rider, of course, with AI is that it's also tending to make us lazy, and there's sort of
It will- do you think it will
half-baked
hamper the-
learning happening also, because people
Yeah.
are relying a lot on generative AI and all of that. But one has to understand, where is AI learning from? AI
But do you think
is-
it hampers creativity?
Of course it hampers creativity, which is why you have to understand that machine is to aid you. Machine is only to help you. It's
Yeah.
you cannot let it be
They did not control
your
you.
master.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm trying to say is, how has AI learned what it has learned? It has learned from what you and I have given
into it, yes.
There's 500 years of history, of books, of language, of poetry, of literature, of information, history,
Yes.
geography that's been fed to it. That's what it's using and learning. So it's human beings who have always produced knowledge.
Yes.
Machines have always been an aid.
Yeah.
So we need to still make machines learn to help us rather than the other way around. Once we stop producing knowledge, there will be stagnation. That's the rider that we need to understand, that AI is only an assistive tool. So like we see with all these language learning apps and so on, that unless it comes on your own tongue, unless you know how to speak Spanish, you
Yes.
won't know how to speak Spanish. The machine doing it for you is no good.
Of course, and that's why they say that a teacher cannot be replaced, and these are just assistive tools or assistive technologies that help you learn language a bit easier, a bit faster, and a bit conveniently. So thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful contribution to the
much.
session. We have to wrap up the session over here. So it was our session on day 4 where we talked about virtual labs for the teaching and learning of languages, and tomorrow on day 5 we will be talking about concerns of using digital technologies for the teaching and learning of languages. So please make sure that you are there and listen and watch the session very attentively if you want to participate in the online course. And before I wrap up the session, it's time for me to make an important announcement. This is regarding the All India Children's Educational e-content competition. Yes, the last date has been extended. It's now 31st of January 2025. You can fetch all the details from our website www.cit.ncert.gov.in, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. So do send in your best e-content entries and we wish you all the best. Now let's take a quick look at the schedule, what all programs you have been watching since morning and what you'll be watching next. So there is this entire list of the programs, and a short while from now you can watch our session Sahyog, and the title will be Examinations in the Times of Internet Dependence, or something that we have already discussed, quite relatable. And with this, it's a wrap. This is me, Harpreet Kaur, taking leave of you, and you stay tuned for more educational programs on our various platforms. Thank you so much. Namaskar.